Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, yes, we just want to confirm you can hear us from there. Okay,
Yes, I can hear you.
thank you. So for this session is starting, this is 9:15 already, and we don't have any physical participant here. But as the chair, we have you, and also we have two other participants. We have Mr. Ayowole, but on my list here, according to the discussant that I have on my list here, we have Mr. Kolapo Abimbola, Jeff Gonzalez, Amuyo. We have Bukola. Okay, we have author and respondents. Okay, so for now we have the author and respondents online. Two authors and respondents, Ayowole, Ilé-Ifẹ, and Oluwafunminiyi Rahim. So right now the four discussants are not present. So because of the time, we can actually start. You can start, man.
Thank you. Welcome us panel. This is session 13A 9:15.
Nobody has come. I think it's just discussion.
Yeah, just discussion.
Just one, but
Day 21st of June 2025. This is a session for author meet readers, which is quite innovative. Let me begin with gratitude to the organizers of this conference, giving me the opportunity to chair. We are here to consider the book Myth, Ritual, and Visible Expression of bàtálá and Olókun in Ilé-Ifẹ, published 2024 by Lexington and authored by Raheem, Oluwafunminiyi, and Ayowole Elugbaju. These are the two authors. Now, we have roughly 90 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes to do our business here. I'll be giving the authors 15 minutes. I don't know how they want to present, if one of them will present or the two will share the 15 minutes. And then we are to have 4 respondents, discussants, to take off this book from different perspectives. My plan was to give each one of them 10 minutes. And then we will have a Q&A session for about 25 minutes. So this was my plan, which can be amended as we go on. So thank you for the privilege. Given the directive to start, I would like to welcome the authors to 15 minutes of presentation. So if the authors are around, please, can they start? Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Professor Mrs. Oyeronke Aladimo. Please, can you please spare me a second to quickly reach out to my co-author so we can facilitate the discussion, and so we can discuss on how to decide on how to facilitate the discussion. Either we want to share the 15 minutes, or since I'm available, if I should handle it.
Okay, but I see a message on the chat box. I think it's from him. He says, I will be at the venue shortly, please.
Yes, it's on the way. It's actually close. It's close. It's close. It's almost there. But at the same time, I want to get in touch with you.
When he comes in, since you say he's close.
Please carry on. You're close to the venue, please. Carry on, please.
Right. So he's with us.
Okay. Thank you,
yes,
Ma, and thank you to the organizers for giving us this.
Please carry on, Ayo, carry on, please. Carry on.
Okay, I'm doing that already. Gratitude to the organizers and the members of this panel for giving us the opportunity to discuss our work. So, The title of our text is Myth, Ritual, and Visible Expressions of Obatala and Olókun in Ilé-Ifẹ. So this work covers two important characters in the religion and history of Ilé-Ifẹ, which are Obatala and Olókun. So in this work, myself and my co-author, Raheem Oluwafunminiyi, we observed that Obatala and Olókun, they hold very vital positions in the pantheon of the Ife people, and also that they hold very important positions in the history of Ilé-Ifẹ, which is regarded as the nerve center of Yoruba culture. So, in the course of our research, we did an extensive field work spanning several years. So, we participated in festivals, we participated in rituals, and we observed rites. In addition to this, we conducted interviews, series of interviews covering several years that extended across several years. And from the information we gathered, we realized that that there was a gap in some of the existing studies about these important figures in the history of Ilé-Ifẹ. As pointed out in this book, starting with Obatala, we realized that the character of Obatala, both in the religion and history of Ilé-Ifẹ, has been featured as a contestant for monarchy, a contender for monarchy, and also that Obatala has been associated in the contextualization of Obatala in the contention for monarchy. We realize that what exists in literature and what exists in the collective memory and in oral traditions, as well as religio-cultural practices, contradict what exists in literature. Then also, Obatala has also been associated with, and also the studies have examined the festival of Obatala, such as Olukun's work, Ife, the city of 201 gods. So this work is seminal, and also Stephen Phillips' paper on Orishala Festival, which he published in 19, I think maybe 1960 or 1970 or something. So these two literature are the only, so to speak, are the only accessible and formal studies on Obatala Festival. So we realized that this work, despite the value that they bring to the study of this figure in the history of Ilé-Ifẹ, there exist certain gaps in the analysis that this studies presented. So in the light of that, we decided to put this section of Obatala together to be able to fill all of these gaps. Then for Olókun, a lot of participant observations were conducted, as well as what do you call it, interviews and participation in rituals and rites and so on and so forth. So we realized that studies on Olókun appear to be very, very few. And in some of the studies where Olókun was mentioned, we realized that the information given concerning Olókun were very, very short and terse. They did not actually place Olókun as understood in Ilé-Ifẹ in proper perspective. So from our observations, we realized that Olókun participated according to the oral tradition and collective memory of the Ife people, Olókun participated in the creation stories, and also that Olókun features extensively in the early history of Ilé-Ifẹ, and also that Olókun has an extensive festival associated with explaining the histories and events associated with this important figure. So, but all of these issues have not been raised in literature. So this section of the book, which features Olókun, was also added in order to bring issues concerning Olókun to light. So, but we now have another chapter which deals with some of the changes associated with this festivals concerning Obatala and Olókun to help us measure the impact that religious change, particularly the advent of Christianity and Islam, as well as the consequences of colonialism that has led to some of the changes, reformations, adjustments, and adaptations concerned with this festival. So this work, some of the major findings of this work are that particularly particularly with reference to this work as a very important source material for history, for writing history concerning the early history of Ilé-Ifẹ. We discovered that most of the existing studies on Ife, they've left out the use of Ifa corpus. They've left out the use of Ifa corpus in explaining some of the issues that oral histories have not been able to fully explain, fully contextualize. So we discovered that a lot of information concerning the early histories of Ilé-Ifẹ that are associated with this deified culture era, such as bàtálá, Olókun, and a host of others, are deposited within the Ifa corpus. And this Ifa corpus brings to fore a lot of contentious issues associated with some of the activities of these figures, such as the contention between Ọbàtálá and Odùduwà, which of course continues to feature as a debate in the public sphere that generates the interest of generates the interest of the public. So we discovered that these issues have been explained extensively in several Odu of Ifa. Then also issues associated with the character and some of the activities of Olókun. In some places, Olókun is understood as a male. In some places, Olókun is understood as a female. In some places, Olókun is associated with bead making, wealth, the cowries, and so on and so forth. And of course, according to the Yoruba oral tradition, it is believed that Olókun originated from Ife. But histories and stories and religious understanding of the place of Olókun within Yoruba religious practices and history have not been fully understood. So this work explores the use of Ifa corpus as well to explain the connections between Olókun and other historical figures such as Odùduwà, Osara, and so on and so forth, to show that Olókun did not exist in isolation, that she had interactions with other historical important figures, and that she had contentions with figures such as Osara, and that due to her experiences due to her interactions with these people, as a result of her interactions with these people, she emigrated from Ife, and this emigration facilitated the emergence of a bead making industry in Ilé-Ifẹ, which would become the major aspect that people identify Olókun with. But beyond that, there's so much more associated with Olókun. So this text, we've written this text to serve as an important source material for further research to explore other areas beyond just oral interviews and archival documents. By using Ifa corpus, we've been able to show that some of the issues that have escaped human memory, that have been forgotten, that have been mutilated and in fact disjointed, that we cannot necessarily make sense of today anymore, and that have become sources of debate, have actually been resolved in Ifa corpus. And also we've shown that festivals are very useful source component for writing history and studies in religion, because unlike other places, festivals in Ilé-Ifẹ form a combination. They include a combination of religious practices and ritual drama that commemorate, or they narrate events as they've happened in the past. So in this work, we've used the festivals associated with Olókun and the festivals associated with Ọbàtálá to show that some of the events that have that humans have that we've lost, some of the narratives that have been forgotten, they are embedded, that they've been embedded not just in the Ifá corpus only, but that they've been embedded in festivals. And the extensive observation of these festivals actually reveal some of the issues that we now debate, that scholars have continued to debate till today. So this work is generally going to be useful as a veritable source material for writing studies in history, and also for conducting studies in religion, because this work forms a combination of both sides, and so much more. Thank you, Ma. I think I want to stop here so as not to, because I'm trying to pay attention to the time. So I
Thank you
don't.
so much. You still have like 3 minutes more. But you did well. Thank you so much for giving us an insight into the book. Is it possible for you to intimate us with the sections in the book?
Okay, ma'am.
For
We
example,
have
the parts, I think
two
you have
sections.
4 parts and so on.
Okay, ma'am. We have 4 parts. The book has 4 parts. So the first part is the introduction. So the introduction generally introduces us to what informed the decision to undertake this research endeavor, and also some of the methodologies we used and some of our encounters in the field. Then also the second part, titled Obatala Religion-Mythical Narratives and Epistemic Notes, consists of 4 chapters. This chapter generally covers the religious and historical and also cultural aspect that has to do with Obatala, and it has 4 sections. The first one is Obatala in Yoruba mythology. This section tries to explain how Obatala is understood in religious mythology as a contender for monarchy, and inebriate, an alcohol user that became inebriate and as a result lost access to monarchy, and so on and so forth. Then the second section, titled Obatala and the Institution of Kingship in Ilé-Ifẹ. Existing studies generally uh, argue that Obatala was that Olodumare, according to Yoruba oral traditions, Olodumare, the god, supreme god, uh, vested Obatala with the duty of creating the earth and also assuming kingship. But that because of Obatala's imperfections, habitual use of alcohol, he lost this goodwill of becoming the king of Ife, and as a result, he was upstaged by his younger brother Oduduwa. So scholars generally argue that this, as a result of this, Obatala, they generally paint this picture that Obatala lacks any connection to kingship, monarchy in Ife, as well as Yoruba land. So this part of this section examined this view. How valid is it? How is it true that monarchy, Obatala is disconnected from monarchy? Is it true that Obatala had no input in the establishment of monarchy and everything that pertains to monarchy in Ilé-Ifẹ in particular, and Yoruba land in general? So this section also examines that. Then the third section, Orishanla bracket Obatala Festival in Ilé-Ifẹ. So this section examined all of the days of the festivals and the activities contained in these festivals to show that apart from being religious and cultural, that the festival of Obatala is also a credible source of history. That it's a narration in motion. It's a narration that features drama,
Please,
ritualistic
you have
practices,
2 minutes.
chants. Okay, ma. Then also the fourth section discusses Orishala Festival and the Throes of Change. This part examines the changes facilitated by advent of religion and also colonialism. Then the third chapter of the book of the work, titled Fluid World, Sacred Manifestations, Therapeutic Landscapes, and Ritual Encounters. This work discusses Olókun broadly. So the first part of this section, titled "When the World Was Fluid: Local Myth and Sacred Manifestation." So this part examines the mythologies surrounding Olókun. Then the 6th chapter, which is Olókun Seniade, the Holy Well of Ilé-Ifẹ. So this part looks at the Holy Well, the Olókun Holy Well, as a physical manifestation, physical representation of Olókun in Ilé-Ifẹ, and the rituals associated with it was examined in the next subsequent chapter titled Olókun Temple, Sacred Landscape of Spiritual Devotion. So that part looked at the Olókun Temple and the surroundings, some of the sacred objects and their importance, their usefulness to the veneration and preservation of Olókun in Ilé-Ifẹ. Then the next chapter looks at ritual practices and sacred observances to Olókun. So it looks at the ritual practices associated with Olókun in Ilé-Ifẹ. Then also festival days of Olókun. This work also measured the days, looked at each of the days of Olókun festival and the activities embedded within each. Then the part 4 of the work, titled Epilogue. Under this epilogue, we have bàtálá and Olókun, the gender dynamic. So this chapter 4 looks at answering the question as to why the authors have decided to look at just these 2 characters outside of the 201 characters in the 5 cultural areas in Ilé-Ifẹ. So this work answers that question by placing bàtálá and Olókun in proper perspective as to why the authors have decided to settle for these 2 characters. And by doing so, we pinpointed some of the characteristics and some of our encounters in the field that shaped our decision, that informed our decision to settle for these 2 characters. Then finally, we have the bibliography index and about the author. So those are the sections contained in the book. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, man. I'm sorry if I've gone beyond the time.
So much. I think
yes, ma'am.
By your presentation, we have enough information, about the book and then the content and the intent of the authors concerning the book. I'm glad that one of the discussants is on ground, and I'm calling on Dr. Ola Omebole to please take the first slot for discussants for the next 10 minutes. You're welcome.
It says you should start your discussion.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Good morning, good to see you once again. I'm a notes to the book authored by Oluwafunminiyi, ReadersRaheem, and Ayowole, entitled Middle of Mutual and Visible Expression of Ilé-Ifẹ. First, I identify it as a very important contribution to global ritual scholarship. So, the book is the fact that helps to agree the future of global ritual scholarship. In 2019, when I attended a conference organized by Allah in Ohio, in the United States, the title of the paper I presented, of course, clearly indicated my warning. I was worried about the future of the infrastructure. The title goes down. Whether it's your virtual studies. That was what I spoke on. But by 2021, I was able to write a book, which was funded by Cambridge Scholar Publishing in the UK. So I saw that as a kind of personal response to my own worry. Personal effort to allay my fear about the future of university personnel. But by 2025, my colleagues were on the book for 10 hours. When I saw the book, I was really impressed by how fast in terms of assurance.
Can you hear the book? She said she can't hear.
Can you hear me?
Clearly.
So can I
project?
Okay. Do I come over?
No, you can just
Continue.
So, in short, I see this book as a very, very important contribution to university scholarship, and like I said, it's a book that allays my fear about the future of the particular area of scholarship. So it's a major attraction to me. So I congratulate the authors, for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
For joining us in working in this area. So as I salute their courage, I salute the the events we are going to bear on this particular area of study. Now, let me be clear that following keywords attract me in the types of the book. First of all, and it's because they directly connect to my area of research interest. The first one, Ilé-Ifẹ. Second one, myth. The third one, religion. And the fourth one, bàtálá. And then the fifth one, Olókun. These are very key words that actually have to do with my research interest as a myth and ritual scholar, with by hands of myths or mythology of different people and their rituals. So I consider myself very appropriate, so I appreciate the fact that I've been asked to come and to remark this book. I have something to say about the book. The first question I want to say is how the book, what the book has for the reader. And then I'm going to see the opportunity to talk about what the book has for me as a literary scholar and what says in relation to my own research interests. The first one, I want to identify that the book elaborates on the part of my own study on different rituals on the one hand, and as I said that already, and also had to the discourse of another data entity to it on the other hand. What I'm trying to say is that in my own study, this book contributes to my elaboration of Bàtálá ritual festival in Ilé-Ifẹ. What it says about Bàtálá as a deity and the ritual and mythology that have to do with Bàtálá as a deity relate to my own area of research. My book, published in the UK in 2021, entitled Rituals of Ilé-Ifẹ, Nigeria. Narratives on narrative on come again? Yeah. Well, that's the shading. But in any case, the point I'm trying to make is that we have a good number of visiting points. Now, again, this new addition. Okay, let me say this. I wanted to say that my book discusses 6 ritual festivals. And out of these 6 ritual festivals, 1 is for Bàtálá. So we mean that that's a very clear area of convergence between my own book and the book that you're celebrating today. But the one that is a new addition, I say a new addition to what I would call my own contribution to the ritual scholarship, is what the book has to say on Olókun. Okay, I didn't go into that, so I see that as an addition. And so I see the first one as an elaboration of an aspect of my book. Then this other one has a complete addition to what I've assembled and then discovered in my own book. So again, I must emphasize the fact that it's really persistent. So that's why I'm going to come up with a review of the book. It's already in process. Now, I would like to remark by scoring the book highly for being a compendium of important historical materials. That's my first remark. And this important historical material, the book uses to reinforce claims, made by the author, and draw appropriate context for understanding the messages the book embodies. So what do I mean by this? In my brief reading, because I've not completed reading of the book myself, it got to me very late. So again, when it got to me, a lot of things on my table. So but I've tried to read the book to an extent. And the little I've read, I've been feeling to me that the book is really very resourceful in terms of the array of outstanding publications in reference to. For instance, I've looked at quite a number of them. I think I'll, even if I ever have to stop at the end of the reading of the list, I will be satisfied. First, the reference to Richard Stone in African Forest and Jungle, 6 years among people, published in 1837. 1837, emphasis on the year of publication. Now, the other one, Richard Lander and John Lander's Journal of an Expedition to explore the cause of contamination of Niger, the narrative of flowing down that river to its termination, published in 1843, and I emphasize again 1843. Of Captain and Richard Lander, Journal of the Second Expedition into the Interior of Africa, Journal of the Second Expedition into the Interior of Africa, from the Bride of Benin to Sokoto. That again was published in 1892, and again I emphasize 1892. Thomas Bowen, Central Africa, Adventures and Missionary Labor in several countries in the interior of Africa from 1849 to 1856. Again published in 1857. Again, I emphasize 1857.
Please, you have 3 minutes more.
Yeah, that was in 1913. John Wilder in 1921, and again, Harold Sanders in 1973. These are very important. That even I'm not sincere when I was doing around, I was not able to access, and so I'm going to even beg these authors to release all this book. It means for me to enrich, my work and use them in the ongoing research that born definitely. In spite of my, so I have just 2 minutes or 3 minutes left, let me quickly go to my interrogations of the findings, the assumptions, the claims, and even the information that the book embodies. And if I don't do this, I know I will not have done justice to the book. The first one, I'm curious at the same time as I'm attracted and fascinated by the book that the author will not demarcate between different dimension poetry of verses and myths. Then I had. You don't feel comfortable with relaxing the two cultural forms that I see in the book. So they are interested in me. They make lots of reference to if I the production, then I have whether we are not going to categorize that separately so that we know that these are a form of oral literature on its own, the cultural form separate from myths. That's what I'm like. Now I also have. Why does the book so much sympathize with bàtálá that establishes for the primacy of political position for bàtálá? This I see in the book, and I sense that the author has seriously sympathetic towards bàtálá. For me, as a literary and myth scholar, the cosmogonic myth really does not have to do with primacy or political position. For me, it's about social evolution, and the cause is really indeterminate. You really cannot determine it. So if you are sympathetic, you feel that bàtálá should have been made this, and that's not the way of society. Who imagines the leader at the end of the day who does not necessarily have to be the person that started the journey? Who completes the journey? Things like that. That's my own. So I think that's one thing I feel that in the going forward, by the authors, when they want to read it, maybe they should look into that. And I also observed that on page 90 specifically, I noticed that they have to, I observed that they have to look into this again. And I'd like to read it, even if I have those 20 seconds. Drawing from the textual analysis and the pictorial evidence put forward by Stephen, the ritualistic role played by certain individuals, including possession, saw participation from men only, when to support the argument of the population. Anyway, what that is trying to say, because of the time, is that the author feels that men dominate the scene of the ritual space of bàtálá, and for them they feel that that is legitimate and that the inclusion or the featuring of female folks now is a new development and it is not original to the ritual process. I say no. I want to object to that, and I want to make that as a very huge case that they have to address. In the sense that within the bàtálá ritual worship, and particularly within this ritual festival, which comes from every year, there is no way bàtálá will be mentioned without the Yemo. Is why first be mentioned. That's why they say Yeye Baba. They will say when they say Yeye, they are trying to Yemo. When they say Baba, they are to bàtálá. And at every point they make Yeye Baba, Yeye Baba, it is like that. So I have a feeling that mentality that licensing, the relegation of women for the margin should be properly moved into that particular festival, the worship that has to be is for both the male and the female actually presented in Yemo, the female goddess, and then bàtálá the god. So finally, let me finally, because I know
Your time is up, please.
Yeah. So finally, those 1 minute. Finally, I would like to say that in chapter 4, specifically, the title of chapter 4 reads thus: the Orisha of bàtálá festival in throes of change. Emphasis now on throes. I observed that again. maybe as a result of sympathy that the authors have for Bàtálá and then the Bàtálá worship and the Bàtálá worship festival, they feel that through that the change that the festival and the worship, is undergoing, it's a kind of truth. No, then I asked the question, how about it? Because if every class in particular, and I think all the class, particularly in Yoruba, within Yoruba culture, and anticipates change, and that's why they have this adaptive capability. So that even as modernity is coming, they are able to adjust to it.
We really have to stop. We really have to stop
The
you.
whole process. So once again, I would like to congratulate the authors. Really enjoy reading the book and see. Love to discuss with them. I promise them a review of this book very soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate your submission. I don't know if any other discussant is on ground, please. If we don't have any other discussants on ground, the second author can please take 5 minutes while we wait for any other discussant. Mr. Oluwafunminiyi can take 5 minutes because the second author had used the 15 minutes allotted to authors. But since you are around now, you can have 5 minutes to make some submission on the book, please.
Okay, thank you so much. It's an honor, sitting before great and eminent scholars and of course colleagues. And the idea behind this book was basically for us to pinpoint two very important deities in Ilé-Ifẹ history, and particularly those aspects that have not, been examined by scholars over the years. And what we did originally was to, because it formed part of our PhD thesis. Some of the chapters there were chapters from our PhD thesis, and of course some extensive fieldwork we took, over the last 10 years. I'm not from Ife. My colleague is from Ife, so he knows much about the Ife myth and the likes. But I also did my own extensive research on Ife, particularly on the Olókun deity, and we discovered that most of the things that the dominant narrative, particularly around Bàtálá, shows that he was a deity that was defeated. Of course, you mentioned it in your review. A deity that was defeated, and then everything that deals with him should be erased from memory. So what we did was to say, no, that's a wrong narrative around Bàtálá, that in spite of the fact that Oduduwa came and did what he did, Bàtálá still remains a focal point, in Ife, and that you could see it in the Bàtálá festival that is celebrated year in, year out, and the key figures that participate in the festival. So like I said, my colleague is the one who did most of the aspects on Bàtálá, so we need to speak much on Bàtálá. But for the Olókun, which I did much, research on, I discovered that in Ilé-Ifẹ, most importantly, Olókun is not the deity that we know her as in most parts of Yoruba land. Of course, Olókun is worshipped in other parts of Nigeria, particularly in the Benin Delta axis, and of course in the diaspora. And some of these places, particularly in the coastal parts of these areas, Olókun is seen as a male deity. But for Ife, it's spectacular because Olókun goes beyond the deity of wealth, the deity of the oceans. For rather, she's represented as a secret holy well. So allow me to use that word now, because it has been highly contested among scholars of holy well, in the past couple of years. So Olókun is represented as a holy well, and I found that out in the Waludi compound, in the Lodi quarters of, where she's eulogized in myth, in praise songs, praise poetry. But I also had to, or we had to also look for incorporated texts that speaks to Olokun's existence beyond, what we see. And that was why we went into the fact divination texts, to understand what she really represents. You know, and we find some of these things in the songs that they sing during the annual festival that's held in April every year, you know. And then apart from that too, we discovered that there are some elements of integration amongst other deities in it, particularly for bàtálá cult, you know, institution as the case may be. And then also the importance of the Oni of Ife, you know, in the festival. Of course, probably maybe in the last couple of years, particularly with the new Oni who came in 2015, I think, 2015, we were told that the Oni of Ife never came, you know, to the temple to participate in the festival, but rather he sends emissaries and the likes. But beginning from 2015, this changed, and we discussed that in our book to underscore the changes, you know, that often occur in most rituals and festivals in Yoruba land. So the Oni of Ife often comes there to do quite a number of interesting activities. One of which is the circumambulation of the Olókun Holy, which will be found quite interesting. So that's just part of what we wanted to do in this work by identifying the gaps, you know, in the literature. And what we discovered really was that very few works, I must tell you, had been done. Of course, Dr. Mobile's work was quite helpful in understanding of bàtálá, you know, up to the present time. But we found quite a number of gaps which we tried to fill. And that's about that. And of course, for what we have been able to identify here, hopefully we'll have to do another review of work to incorporate some of these things there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for such brilliant presentation. You have been able to give us a more detailed submission on the Olókun aspect of the book, and we really appreciate that. I don't know if we have any discussant on ground now, apart from Dr. Omigbole, please.
No, for now.
None for now. Then I think we can continue to enjoy the authors with Q&A. Please, do we have any other person online with us, apart from the discussants? I don't see any here.
We have one attendees. Just one online.
Please, the attendees, do we have any question from the one person on the attendee list?
No question from me.
If none, please, can the authors attempt to situate the Olókun festival on the one hand, the Ọbàtálá festival on the second hand, in contemporary Ife living experiences? Okay, the gaps have been identified in the myth, the Ifa couples, and what have you. But I am now coming from the angle of religion and tourism. Can you try to situate if there is any aspect of your work that can be utilized for the relevance, the impact, the contribution of these two festivals in Ilé-Ifẹ particularly and in Nigeria generally?
I'm not sure if my co-author is still online.
It's online.
Okay.
This is photo.
All right. Maybe he's still busy doing something. Well, within the context
did you hear me? Did you understand me?
Not really. I wanted to ask. Yes, I didn't really get the question, ma'am.
Thank you. Your exposition and the exposition of your co-author identified gaps in earlier works on Ọbàtálá and Olókun in Ilé-Ifẹ. I am asking that part of your submissions concerns festivals for both deities. Festivals. My question is, these festivals, both for Obatala and Olókun, do they have any relevance to religion and tourism? In Ilé-Ifẹ,
Yeah, I think she's done.
No, you can talk.
Oh, okay. All right, all right.
and anything that keep coming up is social relevance, social relevance. So I don't know if you have anything that can help us in that angle. Though I'm not supposed to be asking questions.
I know you should, Prof. Well, the question speaks directly to my own field on heritage studies. And of course, I teach in the Department of Tourism, and I relate to what you just asked us. Well, I want to say that unfortunately, unlike in Osogbo and most recently in Ijebu, where the Oju de Oba festival is now becoming an iconic festival across the world. You know, festivals in the Ilé-Ifẹ, it's still, you allow me to use the word localized. Maybe the Olojo festival, but the rest, the bàtálá, the Olókun, and the likes, you know, they are still localized festivals that have not been able to reach even the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, talk more of the diaspora. So it's still something that's localized, and whenever the festivals come up, you would see people from the compound, and of course the chiefs, the palace chiefs, and the Oni of Ife, you know, come in there to bring light to it, to celebrate with the people. You know, so there's really nothing in terms of I'm trying to look for the right word to use now. It's visibility, you know, globally. But of course, it's something that I, as an individual who is researching Olókun, is trying to look at how the Olókun festival, you know, can be relevant beyond how it is celebrated and I noticed that 2 years back, the chief priest of this even goes beyond what the palace does now. The chief priest of the Olókun institution, who is unfortunately late now, he tried to bring some of the other Olókun heads from other parts of Yoruba land and even up to Benin Republic. Most of them came 2 years ago to celebrate the festival. So it's one of those things that the institution, you know, in that compound is trying to do to give the festival some relevance, and of course to promote it as a tourist enclave. Then also I noticed that one of the wives, I think Oluwafunminiyi or so, I can't recall the name, one of the wives of the king, you know, is trying to also come in there, you know, to give the festival some kind of relevance. But of course, one of the things that people would want to do, and of course the palace itself, in trying to give the festival some form of relevance and to project it even beyond how it's celebrated annually. So I think that's it. And of course, in terms of the religion too, of course, in Professor Oluwafunminiyi's Ilé-Ifẹ, City of 201 Gods, he argued that for quite some time, particularly since 2005, the festivals in Ilé-Ifẹ had been reduced to compound festivals, and then of course the previous Oni of Ife, who had now become, in quote, a Christian, you know, stopped most of these festivals being celebrated and most of the glamour, you know, that we find in these festivals in time past. But from 2015 upwards, with the emergence of the new the current Oni of Ife, many of these festivals, even those ones that had long been forgotten, had been revived by the Oni of Ife, pumping in money, giving it sort of visibility, and even attending those festivals. I was quite surprised when somebody told me that the Oni of Ife never attends or never comes, pays homage to the Olókun cult, but recently from 2015-16 upwards, he comes there, annually to be part and parcel of so I think it's one of the things that the current Oni of Ife is doing, religion-wise, to give Ilé-Ifẹ its pride of place within the context of African, traditional religion, unlike many of the towns we see today, where the Obas are now Christians, Christianizing the town, Christianizing the stool, or of course Islamizing the stool, as the case may be. But for the Oni of Ife, what he has tried to do is to retrace the steps of his predecessor, and say that yes, Ilé-Ifẹ is still the city of 201 gods, and we still need to continue to celebrate these gods, in the way they have been celebrated in time past. But we knew, of course, additions and innovations as the case may be. One of those things I saw particularly was the introduction, and it's quite interesting because in the last 4 years, there's been introduction of consumables as part of the things that is used to ritualize Olókun. For instance, the palace chiefs come with biscuits, come with sweets, beverages and the likes. And these things are used to ritualize the well itself, and of course propitiate Olókun as an important deity. My colleague, of course, who also we argued around this, that what is the importance of introducing sweets and some of these consumable goods to the local, festival. And I told them, look, Yoruba deities are
Actually, those things are part and parcel of the worship of Olókun in Edo State and Delta State, and also in Lagos. So it's only in Ilé-Ifẹ that it's just being introduced.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to call our attention to specific sections of your book for the classroom. Your book has 4 sections.
Yes.
Is there a particular section you want to call our attention to for use in classrooms by lecturers?
Yes, the part 4 of the book, the epilogue section. I recall that our initial submission was for nine chapters to the publishers. But after peer review by the reviewer, we were asked to include, what they call the gender dynamics to the work, which we found quite interesting, because my colleague, we had that argument while working on that particular section. He informed me that, contrary to what Dr. Mibule has said here, that there's no such thing as gender dynamics in Obatala cults, that you find very few female interventions or activities, within the Obatala cult as a whole. How much more even the festival, But for the Olókun cult, this is quite different. You have the male section of the cult. You also have the female section of the cult. But interestingly, while Olókun is a female deity in Ilé-Ifẹ, one would expect that the women would dominate, predominate the rituals, the leadership, the activities, the rituals, to mention a few. But you'd find that it is the male, particularly headed by the Waludi, and of course the subordinates, they are the ones who participate in virtually all aspects of the business. In fact, women are also forbidden from, coming into the shrine, and of course they have to take permission to do some certain rituals within it. But of course, you find women, particularly female children of that compound, extensively participating in the festival, and of course, wives of the chiefs, of that festival. And I'd like to say here that there are quite a number of things that really perhaps understand me well, and of course, Professor Oladebo will understand this, that there are quite a number of things that I saw I asked and I was told, but was forbidden to put it down in paper, black and white. Forbidden, and I have to swear I was not going to put it down on paper or ever mention it anywhere.
Welcome on board.
For instance, no, I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to mention it. I just want to give an idea. Don't worry. I'm still within the ambit of what I can say. So the oriki of Olókun is very key, and nobody told me anything about it among the male cults. But the wife of the late chief priest recited the oriki to me, quite a long, what's it called, priest poetry of that, shed light on this deity, particularly her history, her relationship with Oduduwa, and of course in other aspects. But of course, it was just recorded and that's it. There's no way we can. But and also,
Thank you so much. We really run out of time. I have to hand over to the organizers very soon. Okay. But you brought up some very interesting points. One, that the oral genre is our own encyclopedia. And so you want to know anything, you go in there, you come out stunned by the information that you discover. And secondly, that the African world milieu is based on balance. There is absolutely no sector where you say 100% male, 100% female. We will always try to strike the balance. It is fundamental to who we are. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I want to appreciate Dr. Omigbule for your brilliant reviews. We look forward to further reviews. In fact, Dr. Omigbule, I'll be reaching out to you very soon. There's a project I want to talk to you about. Once again, I'm grateful to the organizers for giving me the privilege to chair this session. So sorry the other discussants couldn't turn up, but I think despite that, we had a very rich conversation here. And I'm so proud of this book and the authors and what they have done and what they are doing. And we continue to encourage our scholars to break new grounds and push the boundaries so that scholarship can continue to be of social relevance. Once again, thank you so much to the organizers. I hand over to you now. It's 10:12. I guess we have 3 minutes more. Or do we have more time?
Do we have more time?
Yeah, we have more time.
We have more time. Let me give room for Dr. Omigbule then. Dr. Omigbule, please, do you want to chip in something to the conversation further?
Well, that's happening. Well, let me first make an observation. The one I'm going to include in my list of observations because of the time you allotted me, which was not sufficient. I wanted to point out that the authors were a bit reluctant in properly identifying 2 historical personages. Okay, the first one, Osimowe, otherwise known as Osimo Faraway. And then the first one, actually, I said the first one. The second one, the Ebumowe. I have the excerpt where this reluctance is, clearly indicated. And so I'm not going to read it down. I have a little attention to do so. So it goes thus: Oba Osimo Faraway 2 is of no known identity, and to be a more refined term for Osimowe, the title of Ondo's traditional ruler. Ebumowe, on the other hand, is more likely to be the title of the founder of the University of Ayowole, in the present day the local government area of the state. So, if you look at that statement, the reluctance is very obvious, and then it shows the level of it shows the extent of the research. In fact, if I was there when the book was being reviewed, I probably would have asked to expand that because it undermines the research. You are feeling that in any case, there is no need for you to be hesitant about that because for same away, same thing as well, same or far away, it's commonplace in Ife tradition. And of course, you know that when you talk about the same away, you are almost immediately implying the brother of a Ebumaway. You get it now. And of course, everyone knows that Ebumaway is the name or the title of the monarch of Ayowole. So that's the point, very local about that. So, so that's the first observation I would like to make. The other observation, like I told you, I've not even able to one of the book because I had to watch it. And then my wife put me up in the middle of the night, I think it was in this, they saw that. And I come here and then the rest said was. So I thought that I was not So now, let me quickly go through. Let me say something about what one of the author, Dr. Rahim, just said about consumables like biscuit and sweets not being part of what they used to perform the ritual of the religion. Well, I think you need to really broaden the understanding of ritual generally. Now, if you understand ritual to be, to use the word my Drewer uses, the transformability and malleability of ritual. And you will know that ritual in itself, in its nature, is anticipatory of change. So it would mean that if you look at Ilé-Ifẹ as a decade of Yoruba, significant rituals and gods and goddesses, then you can infer that the time itself is anticipatory of change. So you must not just change as an anathema in the context of ritual discourse. You must treat it as a necessity, all right? That ritual itself understands because change is part of life. And our forefathers who, we said all this processing, ritual processing, I would say were very, very not endowed that they could see the necessity for them to invent cultural processes that would be anticipatory of change. Because that's So if you not talk about visiting things either now or we're not used and it's difficult for us to even believe that they have never been used because you didn't tell us where you started this research. I'm sure that it didn't cover the entire length, the entire timeline from the beginning or the second of the class up until now. So to that extent, you have to be very careful as a scholar. The other thing is that these kids, whatever, I already say that they are just like the reflection of the malleability of the trial, the readiness of the trial can just change. So whatever change, whatever changes the able to encounter, mutual encounters, mutual find itself or get confronted, it adjusts to it. All right. Sometimes it even bring aspect of change, okay, within the structure of operation. Do you get it now? That's why for now, that's why you see now that in some ritual institutions, we do some ritual processes. You see Caribbean, taking of ritual titles, you see Americans, Cuban, and so you might see that as something, extraneous to the nature of ritual, but it's not. It is part of the, elastic nature of the process and structure of ritual. It is elastic. What are you bring? You are very smart. I talk about very smart. It's smarter than the hierarchy of the school bus and the Christian school bus anything. I'm sorry, that's a question. Don't get that economy. So you understand? They were very smart to saw all of this because life will keep changing. And let me say finally that because ritual and specifically now human rituals has a story of change and are malleable, transformable. All right? That quality is said assures ritual of its eternity, of its perpetuity. You get it now? Because once it is capable of accommodating change, it is something that is included now. Bring whatever you like, it accommodates it. And that's why that also speaks to the nature of cultural, disposition of Yoruba in general. Consider if you bring Yoruba aspect of people culture, Yoruba will embrace it. If you say something with Gosa, they bring it in, and Gosa, it becomes. Before you know it, you may not even know that Gosa are printed from Gosa. Yoruba always, very accommodating on everything. And that's why permit me to say, I hope I'm not the label as this again, you see that Yoruba, and of course, people say it happen to be the most accommodating for all the ethnicities in Nigeria, across the whole consolidation. If not the entire world, people come up from other lands, Yoruba embrace, embrace them. Come to Ibe, they embrace food, if you need the traditional, they bring food, So that's, for now, I think I have to say.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. Can I say something?
Thank you so much. In any case, these items that we are discussing, they are actually most times considered as symbols. So you have to bear in mind that these are representations actually. So if you look at it as literally, you say what is biscuit doing is ordinary. What do you need Fanta for? Is ordinary. But when you then you understand.
You have posts, you have limited her. Oh, okay.
All right. So I've just said, I was saying that those elements of worship like Fanta, biscuits, oftentimes in ritual space, they are symbols. They are not to be taken literally. If you take them as literal items, you are likely to interpret it as being tribal. What is biscuit doing here? What is sweet doing here? When you take them as symbols of sweetness, symbols of children, symbols of multiplicity, then you begin to understand why they have to there. Okay, I hear we have questions in the audience. Can we take them now? I don't see any on the chat box, so maybe the question will come verbally.
Okay, thank you very much for the session and the discussion going on. I want to respond to what maybe a kind of comment or possibly a question will come out. I don't know you. Sorry, my name is Henry Oluwafunminiyi from Ilé-Ifẹ. Thank you. Yes, about the accommodation of things here and there into ritual performance. Is there no way those items, the newness in it, will affect the ritual in the recent of ritual day? For instance, when we look at what in those days, we talk about ritual, there's some other things that will be involved. Maybe in terms of eating or drinking, that will have an impact in the performance. All the things we are saying, biscuits, sweet. For me, I think they are just on the outside of ritual performance, possibly as a way to mobilize. To mobilize the fact the youth, the small children, because they have something to eat. They can work for them from to Yama because of things like this. I think possibly there's that kind of attraction that the people performing the ritual, they are trying to infuse as a way of mobilizing a kind of movement for it. And again, we also look at the changes because human beings, we are the one involved in the ritual. This is not spirits. And we are moving from one end of the world to the other, gaining experiences, changing our lifestyle. And that's when you see a masquerade that I have seen from 20 years ago, you can see the mass must have changed to new realities. Maybe they are not using this, less materials as part of the mass. So I think there's a kind of social conditioning of the movement in terms of ritual. As the world or society moves, the ritual also bends its own orientation to what we have in society. I think that's what we are trying to let us know. Thank you.
I don't know whether I can go in response to that.
Dr. Omibule, you can respond, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for that. But well, somehow they have tried to also retrace what I've already said about the Ibadan in particular. Of course, what I said about Ibadan, which are also goes for largely goes for ritual in general. Now, let me first quickly correct an impression that the ritual is not about the spirit and ritual about spirit.
Spirited.
Highly
spirited.
No, it says so. Maybe you say it's about say the sense of a human being and God.
No, it would be not what I meant to say. Maybe I correct that, or maybe explain what I meant. That if it's a kind of spiritual, it's even my human being. That is, when you perform ritual, it's not the spirit that will come and perform it. It's one that will perform ritual, not any spirit.
So, Professor, well, you didn't have to flow. Just like that, actually, I have to use it. That's why the camera, didn't focus.
I think he's talking about agency.
So, your program, nobody knew who was actually your own and the hundred demands are to power one or two. Well, you see, we have to correct one thing. I think that you just wanted to appear, you just wanted to be go judgy. You already said it. And what you said, many people also say so. That rituals are not about divinities and rituals are about divinity. And just as our people try to correct to say, divinities are supposed to be understood as metaphysical entities. And all these metaphysical, you expect them to come and see you and begin to shake hands with human beings? No. And that's why the human agency is important in the navigation of the goal of existence between the realm that they are believed to be, they are victim, and another realm which of course is accessible to us. For us, we have to accept them, and that's why we have been invented as the medium of communication between the communities and humanity. Right? So it is a lot of understand the agency, all right? Which of course basically understand the structure of interaction between the two men in this state. One level of reality. Depending on how rituals, okay, Christian rituals, Islamic rituals, human beings are the one who take charge of the agency. They have to use the agency of nobody ever saw Allah. And nobody has ever seen Jesus Christ there. Then we go to Jehovah and say, you think some people stuff like that. Also, what it is the agency of humanity that we use, all right, to access these other entities, either real or imagined. Okay, and that's what's everywhere. So I also would like to talk about something you said. I can't remember the name.
I have it, man.
Okay.
I want to quickly add something,
Why you didn't for me for that one?
Go ahead, fine.
On this consumable thing, if you recall, I mentioned that my co-author is someone who does not believe in resilience of rituals. He believes that whatever rituals has been there should remain. That adding things to it, makes the deity less of what it is, or the activity less of what it is. Now, I was also concerned when you raised that issue while we're doing this work, and I had to go to the field to ask questions that why did you introduce these consumables, to the ritualization of proposition of Olókun? And I was told that one differ, that a divination was made, and in the divination it was told to them that Olókun accepts these things, pineapple, fruits, because in quote, she is a deity of sweetness. So Olókun will perhaps not say, propitiate me with burger or with shawarma, because for heights, it's not related. I don't know if it's not linked ritually. So for them in the Olókun cult, these consumables are, like Prof said, symbolic, of what Olókun represents as a deity in Ilé-Ifẹ.
Well, thank God that we have the opportunity of making this very
Thank you.
Prof, I hope I can stop.
Yes, please.
And I just said that God renewed. Thank God that we have the opportunity of making this very interactive. Well, I want to caution our author again, and I hope I have the authority to do so. That don't speak for Olókun. Let Olókun speak for himself or herself, as the case may be. And when the time comes, Olókun either and usually through, divinatory processes that prefer other forms of the divination. But what I would like to quickly point out is what people often overlook, which is the ultimate ethical basis of ritual itself. And that, of course, is commonplace expressed in the popular culture of Yoruba that see àbárí àdán, say, "Oh, you have so many perfect orders." You have to be very meticulous. That's why, in time past, human beings were, used as spiritual materials, data. So your friend that is becoming eventually readable, it's only that it's not necessary, read the evaluation, has to just change its status to ritual. Because ritual will always change. Because they are very deep philosophical. You understand that the understanding of life is so broad. And that's why you don't have so much friction in Yoruba land. I'm talking of the essentially Yoruba traditional, community, apart from the one that we now have and we pretend, is still a tradition. The traditional people, we are not contending with all these physical challenges. The tensions were immediately down by the fact that every conference. So when we don't give a while, it's like China, because you turn society into a war zone, and you begin to throw, but and that does not mean that they were so morally, loose to get the plan. So all that to understand the nature of society itself, which of course is reflected in the tradition. So the ritual they're talking about is not that rigid. In any case, the Yoruba consider the mundane and the sacred as coexistential. You understand it now? These are coexisting aspects of life. Let me now say this to you again, and I will think I'm correct, I'm having anywhere. And in any case, I think it's also a universal about ritual. Rituals are inventable. They can be reinvented. For instance, if people are taking some aspect of the ritual from market, it can be made sacred. It can be sacred life so that people will be, some people will become exclusive, people with exclusive accessibility to certain aspects of ritual, but I think you can actually make it totally inaccessible. Otherwise, you then share of the entertainment purpose and entertainment. The one ritual, for instance, does not become, does not estrange the audience until when the one ritual performance are coming from the return. When they are disembarking, that's when it comes, something that some people have to be far away from. But when they are going, everybody's a celebratory thing. So the mundane and the sacred are interconnecting. In Yoruba world. If for instance I go to Kusiri now and begin to sing the praise, I can go a bit divine. If I remember, if I actually observe them, I must you understand it down. For example, if I example on bed here, when I try to, if for instance, my friend already told me that if I see tree, you understand anywhere, I must do certain, perform certain acts of defiance. You guys, no one just left. Can I go and engage? Yes. And then, second one, my prompt me to go a bit, spiritual. I said, we have the, and then I begin to feel, and there is parents, to him or her. And my people, look for people out there, you don't get me, honey or cola nut. Yeah. And the person can give it to him, that was the spiritual. But afterwards, we also go mundane. Religion.
Thank you so much. Thank you. To buttress your point, another example is the worship of Oshun in the diaspora. You have to sacralize the water body there. It's not Oshun, but it is Oshun. Before the process of ritualization, it is not Oshun. But immediately after the process, it becomes Oshun. Omi gbogbo l'Oshun. So that's just the dynamic aspect of ritual, you know, and it's not actually peculiar to African religion. You recall when the queen was going to be buried, they had to remove all the insignia of office from her corpse. Okay, so that meant that when she was coronated, she was herself, then she was ritualized and she became the queen. Now she's dead, the insignias are removed, she's back to herself and she's buried. So it's not peculiar to African religion, it's an integral part of the nature of ritual. There's nothing rigid concerning rituals. Thank you so much. I don't think the co-author is still with us.
Yes, let's.
So the author that is on ground, I don't know if you have the last word for us.
Somebody wants to say something. Yes. A member of the audience wants to say something.
We have somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
I'm not a so I just wanted to digress a bit. But the issue of the politics between bàtálá and Oduduwa, that one really struck me. So I expect conflict and help for because all those things are generating a lot of views on the internet. So conflict can help us on those areas where that politics and then the Oduduwa took over. How or what happened? What I wanted to also
I think you're going to have to buy our book to be able to know more about the dynamics between, you know. It's there. It tells about the tension between, you know, unfortunately, my co-author would have been able to, you know, speak more about. We'll talk about it after this session. But I would like to quickly appreciate if you allow me to do that. My elder sister is here. You know, yes. Yes.
Please go ahead, madam. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Let me say something before you say. Let me say something in response to me. How do you see on the internet? We also see. You know, and if you consider, because that's the nature of the internet, like every other medium of mass, communication. You understand it now? So, it's not an elitist mode of discourse that is structured and principled and well monitored. People will say all manners of things, and people say things that would actually, what do you call it? There'll be sensation. Because they lead joint of traffic. So, and you know that nonsensical issues and nonsensical mode of discourse will draw traffic more. But the real thing for me regarding the nature of river control is that the so-called tension, you have to properly locate it historically and culturally. Is it historically locatable within the Yoruba, existential reality, so to speak, or within the context of Yoruba history, or is it culturally locatable? Is it culturally locatable? What do I mean by this? Tension. Where is this coming from? You are building the tension because of our modern sensibility. That's my claim. I'll give you a good example. The whole idea of allied economy, which is supposed to be a philosophy that douses tension. I mean, you can imagine the kind of tension that will be in mind as a sort of contest over the paternity of the child. And then allied economy is invented, and that's, you understand me. Now, take that to explain the paternity of Oromia in Yoruba, in Ife mythology, which of course is representative of the mythology, but that's the source. All right? Oromia was fathered by, myths reveal that Oromia was fathered by Ogun and Oluwa. But we never had any conflict. Did you never say there was any tension? It's not understood. And probably like Professor said, we have to understand this beyond judgment. Means to just understand that there are symbolic modes of communication. You understand? So you don't interpret them, you must possess the literal mind and the mystical mind. To understand that the representation of Olomiyan as a dual personality, a side of him is the
round up your point. Please round up your point.
Pigmentation. You have black on one side and then white on the other side, and that you have represented in the pictures of the olive, done a lot of festivals. You paint the outside of it. So represent the pigmentation of the dual pigmentation of Olomiyan. So it has the side of him representing Ogun is father, black in nature. And then another side of him, light part of the pigmentation representing those black. About mix, I've never said that Olua and therefore on the paternity of Ogun. So where is your own vision over this Allah? Who is thinking the story is clear? The story is clear. So we are not bringing all the tension, bringing interpreting to make nonsense of no sense. Thank you.
Please, we should always bear in mind also the politics of interpretation. Human agency is always subjective, and so we are reading the same text but interpreting it differently because we carry different agendas. Anyway, that's outside our scope here. To the author again, I want to mention the possibility of reaching back to your data source. These are the resource persons that you interacted with. For this kind of work that span many years, that may not be 100% practical, but at least as far as you can go, you should try to give feedback to your base of data. I'm talking about the people you interviewed, the people you interacted with, concerning the end product. You know, a conversation such as, you remember that time I came to you, Baba? You remember that time I came to you, Mama? After all the research, this is the book that we published to. What does it say? For example, in this place, he said like this, he said like this. He said, okay, like, that's true. Okay, like, they are owning the research. They are saying you are representing us well. What you have said about us is correct. Or it could go the other way. Something like that. We don't usually in Africa do that feedback. And that feedback is so essential for phenomenologists. So I want to encourage the two authors, as much as possible, please try to reach back to your base for that feedback. Once again, thank you so much. I will now, Father, I salute. Father, God bless you.
Thank you.
So I now hand over to the organizers with gratitude again. Thank you for the privilege given to me. Over to you now.
I think we have less than 1 month to run the session. Yeah, yes, from the session. Round up. Yes.
Thank you very much.